Jimmy Butler is now determined to get a max extension this offseason. We'll break down that report as well as the new article surrounding the idea that the Philadelphia 76ers are more than willing to go out and give Jimmy this extension if he was able to land in a Philadelphia 76ers uniform. We're going to break it all down on this episode of Heat Digest, and we're going to do it right now. So, first things first, Jimmy Butler being named or labeled as determined to go out and get a max extension this offseason. It came from NBA Central yesterday as they reposted the news of Anthony Chang. As we all know, he writes for the Miami Herald, and he said this: Jimmy Butler is determined to land a max extension per Anthony Chang. Going on to say, and I quote, Jimmy Butler wants a max extension this offseason, preferably from the Heat. But whether it's from the Heat or another team, he wants a max extension. That is the end of the quote, and I have the rest of the article, not all of it, but a few of the paragraphs that really mean the most, and these are it. Along the 76ers, according to league sources, there are two other teams that have made it known in league circles that they would be willing to trade for Butler and sign him to a max level contract. Butler turns 35 on September 14th. Despite the outside interest, Butler and his agent Bernie Lee have reportedly made it clear, publicly and privately, that he wants to spend the rest of his NBA career with the Heat. But choosing not to offer Butler a max extension this offseason could derail those plans, especially with those other teams seemingly willingly to fulfill his request. So we'll pause here, quickly review it. But again, Jimmy Butler, we know that he wants to retire in Miami. He has made it extremely clear, especially in recent dates, just when he was at the Miami Grand Prix, just a month ago, obviously in Miami, the Miami Grand Prix. But again, he was there. He was interviewed a bunch. We covered it here on Heat Digest, how he said he loved Miami. He loved everything about it. He loved the food. He loved the environment. He loved the people. He loved the organization in the Miami Heat. He loves everything about Miami, and he wants to retire in a Miami Heat jersey. And that was just the most recent example of him speaking out about his tenure in Miami and how he wants it to end. And again, that he wants it to be the end of all of his basketball career in the sense of him being an active player. Again, as he said, he wants to retire in Miami. And again, it was cited here from Anthony Chang, from Bernie Lee, and Butler, saying that privately and publicly, they have made it clear. So again, we'll go on here. So essentially, Butler will ask the Heat to replace the 2-year and $101.2 million remaining on his contract should he exercise the 2025-26 player option with a 3-year commitment worth $161.7 million. Now, the Miami Heat have Jimmy Butler under contract for at least this up and coming year. After this up and coming year ends, with or without a contract extension, his career in Miami comes to a halt if he opts to opt out, because he has a player option, again, like they said here, player option in 25-26. So again, we're going into year 24-25 right now. We will play out that season, and then in year 25-26, in that offseason, Jimmy Butler will have the ability to opt out and become a free agent on the open market. We see it happen all the time. LeBron James will probably do it here in the next month after the NBA Finals come to an end, as that's the biggest news around the NBA right now. But again, Jimmy Butler's time will be at next year if he doesn't get a contract extension. But again, like Anthony said in his article, and like we all know, because Butler has this 1 year left, they can't offer him this contract until the NBA Finals come to an end, and then the window obviously opens for contract extensions, and the rest of free agency really gets going at a lot faster pace than it is currently, obviously, as there's still games going on. But again, if Jimmy doesn't get the extension he's looking for, and he doesn't get extended at all next season, whether it be at the end of the season, during the season, or even next offseason before he becomes a free agent, the Miami Heat will have the ability to go out and give him the money, or possibly just offer the money that he's looking for, if not less or more, obviously. Just they'll be able to have their negotiations, I should say. But again, that is next year. So to go on and finally wrap up the Anthony Chang article written on the Miami Herald. But should the Heat opt to not sign Butler to a max extension prior to the start of next season, the allure of other teams willing to give it to him could factor into what comes next. Butler would be eligible to sign the same 2-year, $113 million extension that he could sign with the Heat with any other team he's traded to, because his bird rights carry over in a trade. However, Butler won't become eligible to sign that extension in this scenario until 6 months following the trade. Of course, Butler is under contract with the Heat for next season, regardless of what happens with the extension this offseason. It also remains unclear whether Butler would even request a trade from the Heat if he doesn't get the extension before the start of next season, or if the Heat would be willing to deal Butler away. So again, circling back to the idea of whether or not Butler would demand his way out of Miami, force his way to anywhere else in the NBA, just get out of a Miami Heat uniform, or for the Miami Heat to just step up and just ask who wants what for Butler, and we'll just negotiate and get a trade off to get as much for Butler as we possibly can. Both of those scenarios, I do not believe have a chance of happening. I think Jimmy is sincere when he says he loves Miami. I think that it's truth when he says it. I think he genuinely enjoys being in Miami, playing for someone like Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra. It's not like he's playing with a bunch of scrubs. He has got a lot of good talent around him with the possibility to make it even better, especially this offseason with the players we currently have. It could be very interesting next season. Obviously, Butler's getting towards the end of his career. What is he? He's 35 now, 36. So he's getting towards the end of his career. He needs to be able to win. He wants to win in Miami. He's, again, publicly said it. He's on the record saying he wants to win a championship in Miami. Hopefully that's what happens. I do not believe this ends with burning bridges between the Miami Heat and Jimmy Butler and his agents and everyone involved. I think this is really I think this is going to be a good relationship until it ends. Whether it ends with winning or it ends with losing, I genuinely think that this will end and result in a happy friendship. But again, that was that part of it. Now we have the second part of it, which is the fact that the Philadelphia 76ers, who we know have been monitoring the situation since the end of both of our seasons, again with Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat, the Philadelphia 76ers are prepared to offer Jimmy Butler a full max extension if they land him in a trade per Pompey on Sixers. That is Keith Pompey, who is a beat writer for the Philadelphia 76ers, just like Anthony Chang is for the Miami Heat. Again, just for the Philadelphia Inquiry. Sorry, I went blank there. But again, sources. Sixers are prepared to give Jimmy Butler a maximum extension if the Heat star is traded. Now, that is a massive if. Do I think it's going to happen? No. We just talked about this. I don't think Butler forces his way out of Miami. I never thought of that even being a possibility until we really highlighted it in this article just now from Anthony. But again, whether or not he's traded, that has been a massive conversation. What would that trade look like? What would we get back? That has been a conversation. Obviously, I don't believe it's going to happen. I don't want to see it happen. But again, the 76ers feel otherwise. Again, these are quotes from the article written by Keith Pompey on the Philadelphia Inquiry, where he goes on to say, it's no secret that the 76ers are closely monitoring Jimmy Butler's contract situation with the Miami Heat. The Sixers view him as a fallback option if they are unable to sign Paul George in free agency. And according to sources, the Sixers are prepared to give Butler a maximum salary extension if things align and he forces a trade out of Miami. Now, this is the most disrespectful thing I've ever heard. Using Jimmy Butler as a fallback option if you can't go out and get Paul George, labeling it as that. Wow, as someone who is writing in props to Philly in the sense that he's writing for Philly, safe to assume that he's probably a Philly fan. He's writing on for a positive narrative, if you will, to the rest of his crowd or whoever, whatever demographic he's writing to. Pretty funny to write it that way in the sense that obviously the Sixers have been involved in the Jimmy Butler conversation for the last few months. It feels like the trade deadline, it felt like people were calling for him to get traded to or back to Philly to play alongside Embiid so they'd have a chance to win a championship this year. To throw him under the bus and make it sound like he's some backup or second string to Paul George, if I was Jimmy Butler and I saw that, I'd laugh and make sure it would never happen. I don't know if he has a trade clause in his contract right now, in the current contract he's on, but there's no chance in the sense that they'd give him a max contract. You should have gave it to him when you first had him there, bud. You kind of let the dog run away and you never chased him, and because of that, he's gone, and now he's playing in Miami. You're not going to get him back. I'm just going to be blunt and hopeful here, but I don't think you're going to get him back. Now, again, from Keith Pompey on the Philadelphia Inquiry, he goes on to say, could the Heat risk alienating Butler by opting to prioritize future flexibility over giving him an extension this summer? Would fear of that lead them take trade him this summer if Butler begins making things uncomfortable, regardless of Riley's statement. The Sixers could have close to $65 million available in salary cap space this summer. They'll also have 5 first-round picks and multiple pick swaps available to trade beginning at the start of June 26-27 NBA draft. Again, the NBA draft is on June 26th and 27th. 2 rounds, 1 each night, obviously. As a result, the Sixers would have enough cap space to absorb Butler's salary in a trade. Would that and the possibility of involving a third team be enough to pique the Heat's interest? Now, I thought this was the article we pulled up earlier from Anthony Chang. That's why I hesitated so bad. But again, it's accurate, and it's a great way to sum up what we're actually looking at here in the sense of a very far out in the distance type of deal. But again, it's pretty accurate in the sense if the Heat don't offer him this contract to play devil's advocate to Anthony Chang, kind of in the idea he was taking, like, would it prioritize, or would it inflict, like, would it hurt Jimmy Butler's relationship with the Miami Heat in the sense they made me play under the same contract, they didn't pay me when I wanted, I'm not coming back, I'm accepting the player option in 25-26, or is he going to be, he's going to be open ears, understand that we're trying to win now, and yes, you are going to be a massive piece of it, yes, you're going to get your money, but you just have to wait a year, prove to us that you're going to be on the floor for 70 of the 82 games, or 68 of the 82 games, just give us 2/3 of an NBA season. Be there during the playoffs. Do not get injured. Obviously, I'm not saying it's his fault he got injured. I obviously never wanted to see Butler get injured. No one wants to see Jimmy Butler get injured. But again, it did happen. He was not there. And because of that, we didn't really have even a shooting chance at beating teams like the Celtics. And that's why we went home in the first round. But again, just a very interesting idea. And for the Sixers to have $65 million in cap space, as well as 5 first-round picks and in multiple pick swaps. We're assuming 8 total draft assets here, if not more, in the sense of the 5 first-round picks as well as the pick swaps in total. Maybe this Philadelphia 76ers really throw out some ridiculous offer, and hopefully it becomes public so we can talk about it and assess and play the what-if game with everyone. But again, that would be fun. I don't want to see Jimmy Butler traded. You guys know how I feel. I'm not changing my stance. I will die on this hill. I do not want to see him traded. He should stay in Miami. He should retire in Miami. We should trade people like Hero, possibly even Rozier, go get another big, add another piece next to Butler, as well as maintain a good young core with Jaquez, Jovic. We could possibly move one of them if and depending on who is on the other end. But again, long reach. Again, it's a lot of moving parts. The last thing we're going to talk about here is this, and it's Udonis Haslem being the GOAT that he is, the OG that he is, on Get Up this morning saying the Lakers have a better chance of getting Bronny than they do Jimmy Butler. You gotta go through me. I'm standing on the county line. Now, Udonis Haslem said all of that on on Get Up this morning on ESPN, and he was talking about the idea of Jimmy Butler possibly getting traded to these teams in LA, Philadelphia, and obviously there was one other team that they did not mention by name, I believe. But again, they were mentioning the Sixers and the Lakers about how they were willing to pay them the max contract for 2 years if they were able to get get Jimmy Butler in that trade. And Udonis Haslem said he's not going anywhere. He's staying in Miami, and if he tries to leave, I'm standing on the county line, and he's not leaving. It was a really funny moment. Udonis Haslem is great on TV. I hope he's there more because he's a joy to watch. He really is. And again, it was a funny moment as well on the internet. So thanks for watching this episode of Heat Digest. That's going to be it. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think about all of this crazy speculation surrounding Jimmy Butler and him determined to get a max extension, as well as the 76ers just being the guy that will never leave the side of Jimmy Butler, the guy that just watching him over the fence the entire time. He'll never go away. But again, that'll be it. Let me know in the comments what you guys think, and I'll see you guys on the next episode of Heat Digest.